Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show. It is a packed show today, so we're going to jump right back in. We have some very special guests joining us here on the show to talk about. It is Halloween. It is time for, scary stuff, and there is always a need and an interest, of course, in scary stuff that works for families of multiple ages, let's put it that way. Because what do you do if you've got a family of 2 or 4 and their age ranges are from, say, 8 to 17? You're going to be scattered all over the place trying to find Halloween-themed stuff for them to do. But the folks here in the studio with us today are here to help you out with that a little bit. Joining us right now, we have from the Hyde Park City Council. How many years now? Whoops, sorry.
I've been an advisor for the Youth Council for 14 years.
14?
Yeah.
That is amazing. Honestly. Stephanie Allred. Sorry,
Thank you.
I didn't give your name. I just got lost in that. I'm like, how many years? Because we've done this a couple of years now, kind of a tradition here on the show to talk about this. And joining you have Avery Peery, or Perry, if people, I'm kidding, Avery. It's Avery Peery, and she joked that her name always gets mispronounced, so I had to mispronounce it once. And down at the other end of the table here, Lucas Jenkins. And Lucas, thank you as well. You've put together a family option for Halloween, a spook alley of sorts. How many years has this been happening now? This is
the 14th one.
14th one, and so the same time you've been advising, they've done this. That is honestly so cool to see that type of longevity. And tell us how this happens, how you put it together.
So I was looking for a way for the Youth Council to be self-supporting, and came up with an idea of the spook alley. And so it's just started out kind of small, although I thought it was great at the time, but it's grown and grown. And by this time, we've got lots of props and lots of people that are good at spook alleys and decorating, helping us out. And of course, lots of the kids love to sign up for Youth Council because they want to be involved in the spook alley and scare people.
Sure. That's the fun of it, right? Lucas and Avery.
Yep.
But this, it really does fill a need that's out there, because it's hard for a family to find something that is going to be fun for all the kids, but at the same time is, many families with, say, you're not going to load your 8-year-old up and head down to Nightmare on 13th in Salt Lake.
Right.
And plus that will cost you $85 this year. I checked, but this is local. It's fun, and I've seen photos from previous years. A lot of work is put into this.
A lot of work. You would not believe how much behind the scenes goes into this. We have each room, we assign a youth, and then we assign them a parent or an advisor to be in charge of that room.
Wow. And
so each room does a lot of work on their own, and a lot of hours are put into it, and it looks good.
That is very cool. And you get the city to basically turn over the city office building for
That's
this.
Right.
So does all work shut down for the city? Are they all working from their cars out in the parking lot for these 3 days?
We did throw the court out. They decided that they can do that another week, so the court doesn't happen. But, city council meetings on Wednesday nights or planning and zoning doesn't happen. And so, because we take the upstairs to do Little Boo, and our royalty sponsors that, and it's for littles that don't want to be scared but want something really fun.
That is very cool. This is, for listeners, this is an opportunity not only to get out and enjoy, a family-friendly spook alley for the bigs, and as Stephanie mentioned, the Little Boo happening upstairs at the office building there in Hyde Park with a Toy Story cast, as I understand it, for the little kids, and something a little less scary, but still Halloween-themed. This is also an opportunity for you to support the Hyde Park Youth Council And this is just one event that happens around the Youth Council all year round. But I've posted a link for those who are interested. You can also just find it on the Hyde Park City Facebook page. But the Spook Alley is back, 14th year, happening October 28th, 29th, and 30th, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, 7 to 9:30 p.m. It's cheap, $5 a person, and $3 per child for Little Boo. For those who might need something a little milder, don't want anybody going home with nightmares. But so age-specific separation there between Little Boo and the regular Spook Alley. And Stephanie, you brought with you Avery and Lucas, who I assume are both on the production side and the cast side of this as well. So who wants to start out here? How did you... talk about the production side first, maybe. How do you decide, how this goes together and what happens in the various rooms of the Spook Alley?
Well, it all starts when we meet about 2 months before it happens, and we start talking about it. We start splitting into groups. We have about 1 or 2 or 3 youth from the council in each room. We always look at a list of things that we've done in the past because we don't want to repeat what we've done because we always want to mix it up and make it memorable and not the same over and over again. Very
cool. That is a challenge to do in 14 years, but very nice to keep it fresh. And what about you, Lucas? How does the production side go for you?
Well, it's lots of work. Lots of brain power of thinking of new ideas.
Yeah, because you can't phone it in, right? There's nothing worse than you go to a Spook Alley and they've just spread some, fake spider webs up in a corner and there's a pumpkin in the center of the room. It's got to be big, right?
Mm-hmm. Lots of setting up. We build stuff, we paint stuff.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool. This is, and so now, well, actually, we'll hold off on that. We'll hold off on talking about the cast side of things because, Stephanie, you kind of hinted at it. Some of the fun of this for kids is getting to scare people.
Yes.
You get an opportunity to actually jump out from behind something. And but I forgot to ask, do you have a role, Stephanie? Will you be in costume? Will you be...
No. My role, no. My role starts clear back in August, starting to collect things and look at new things and trying to guide the kids into deciding.
Nice.
And usually those nights I'm on duty like, oh, we need this or we need that or something went wrong over here. So I'm usually running around and helping
cool.
everybody.
Somebody has to stay behind the scenes and make sure everything functions, right?
That's right. That's me.
That's very cool. Joining us again here in the studio from Hyde Park City, Stephanie Allred, and both part of the production side and the cast side of the Hyde Park Spook Alley, Lucas Jenkins and Avery Peery here in the studio. The Spook Alley again happens next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, October 28th, 29th, and 30th, 7 to 9:30 p.m. at the Hyde Park City office, which is 113 East Center Street. There is a Facebook event that you can look at and put on your calendar to remind you. And I've shared both the event and the Hyde Park City's post about the Spook Alley with some teaser photos, in fact, on our own Facebook page if you'd like to find it there. And we'll be back with more of our guests again here in the studio, Stephanie Allred, Avery Peery, and Lucas Jenkins with the Hyde Park Spook Alley coming back for its 14th year at the Hyde Park City offices. And we'll keep the conversation going right after this. Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Joining us here in the studio with Hyde Park City, Stephanie Allred, and with the Hyde Park Spook Alley in its 14th year, Lucas Jenkins and Avery Peery. Peery, I'm sorry, I did it as a joke, Avery, and then I just did it. I apologize. I should have never cracked the joke at the start of the hour because now my brain, Avery Peery here in the studio. And we've talked a little bit about the logistics of putting together this Spook Alley in Hyde Park at the Hyde Park City offices next week. But now we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about the fun side for these kids involved. One more time, it's next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 28th, 29th, and 30th of October, 7 to 9:30 p.m. at the Hyde Park City office. For the main event, it's $5 a person, very cheap, and that goes to support the Youth Council. For the little kids, they have Little Boo, which is happening on the upper floor of the city office building there. That's $3 a child. That's 6 to 8 p.m. each night. Adults get in free if they're coming in with a child, of course. And Little Boo, sponsored by the Hyde Park Royalty. The Spook Alley brought to you by the Hyde Park Youth Scare Council. I love that. And before we're out of time, I want to, and I know we have to be careful because the point of a Spook Alley is to scare people, so we can't spoil anything here, right? Although I did find out a little bit about your role, Lucas, and I recommended you have a bottle of water in your pocket if you're not going to be able to move around because you can get very thirsty in those masks and makeup. But Avery and Lucas, can you tell people, as a way of enticing people to come, tell them a little bit about your role or something happening in one of the various rooms of the Spook Alley, again, without giving anything away, if you can.
I'm going to be tied to a chair screaming. That's my role.
Now, I've been told that's not really out of the ordinary for you.
Daily basis.
Daily basis. Someone says, all right, Lucas, sit down. I'm going to tie you to this chair. And then you scream in protest. No, this is, again, I'm trying to be careful about spoiling anything here, but as I understand it, the rooms have themes. You mentioned that, Stephanie, that there's a theme to each room, and you've thought these out. So there's kind of a bit of storytelling happening. Mm-hmm. That is very cool. How do you decide, maybe for you, Avery, what's too scary? Have there been ideas that popped up and you thought, too far?
Oh, I'm sure there's been lots. We've got a couple rules. We're not allowed to grab anyone, and we try to stay away from things that are really gory or stuff like that. We usually just try to more pop out or make a dark room look with shadows and just some fun things like that. But
that is very cool.
That's right. But we do allow grabbing ankles.
Oh yeah.
That's part of...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's part of these, though. That's the creepiest thing when you don't expect that. This is... it's fun that this happens and has happened so many years in a row. And it has to be exciting for you, Avery and Lucas. It has to be exciting for you to have an excuse, basically, 3 nights next week to really get into the whole Halloween thing. But... how far are you going to go with the costumes? With what's your prep time?
Well, we've been setting up all week. We've started this last Tuesday, and we're just setting up everything. It takes a lot of work. We're putting in a lot of different details, just random things that, just to make it scary. I'll be in full costume. I know all my friends in my room will all be in full costume, screaming our heads off. Just fun. Yeah.
That is so unable to speak at school the next day, right? Your voice is shot.
Definitely, yeah. I'll have to tell my English teacher I can't give that presentation.
That is very cool. This is funny. A message from a listener who said they went last year as an adult, went last year, took the kids, and I was thinking, Youth Council, Spook Alley, how scary is this going to be? And she says... someone popped out. She said, my back was turned as we were exiting one of the rooms, and someone popped out in the next room and I screamed louder than either of my children did the entire night. And my kids have never stopped teasing me about this. I love, that is a classic story
love it.
there.
That's the best part about it. Just watching people's reactions. It's kind of surprising, We'll see some tall guy come through and we think, oh, he's probably pretty tough. But you jump out and you think he's a 5-year-old girl just screaming.
Oh, yeah. The guys that look tough are always the screamers.
Yeah.
Because that's me. I always look tough, and my friends say, "Who's going to go first?" I say, "Oh, I'll go first. I'm not," and then I squeal through the whole thing. This is, it's funny that we enjoy this type of stuff, but we do. There's something kind of fun about being scared about an unexpected pop up, or you walk into the doorway of a room and it just looks creepy, and you're like, I don't want to go in there. There's something fun about that, and so thanks to all of you for putting this together for Cache Valley, and we should point this out as well. You don't have to be from Hyde Park to attend, right? This is for all of Cache Valley.
That's right.
It's just put together by the Hyde Park Youth Scare Council, and Little Boo put together by the Hyde Park Royalty, and of course Stephanie Allred overseeing all of this. Again, 14 years. Congratulations. That's very cool.
Thank you. I love working with the kids.
Oh man, it's fun. The Spook Alley again is back, 14th year in Hyde Park, and it is happening next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, October 28th, 29th, and 30th, 7 to 9:30 p.m. at the Hyde Park City office, which is 113 East Center Street there in Hyde Park. $5 a person. All of that goes to support the Youth Council. And for Little Boo, $3 a child. Adults are free if they're accompanying a child. And that's for the little ones who maybe want a more toned down but yet Halloween-themed event. Toy Story-themed event upstairs for Little Boo. And this is, again, happening next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 28th, 29th, and 30th. 7 to 9:30 p.m. at the Hyde Park City office. And thanks to our guests, Stephanie Allred, Avery Peery, and Lucas Jenkins, joining us here in the studio. And appreciate you making the time for KVNU and for putting this together.
Let me just add that Little Boo is from 6 to 8.
That's right, 6 to 8 p.m. each night, right?
Yes. We end a little early so that they can go to bed.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah.
It's my bedtime, too, actually. Try to wrap things up by 6 o'clock these days. Very cool stuff. Thanks again to all of you for coming in and, again, for putting this together. Once again, the 14th year of the Hyde Park Youth Council's Spook Alley starting next Monday. I've linked to a Facebook event page if you want to set up a reminder for yourself on our own Facebook page, or you can simply search on Facebook for Hyde Park City and find that event listed there, second post down. And we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter. Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Thanks again to Stephanie Allred of the Hyde Park City Council and Youth Council members Lucas Jenkins and Avery Peery, our guests before the news there, talking about the 14th annual. I knew it had been a while, but when Stephanie threw that out, it just blows me away. But the 14th annual Hyde Park City Council produced and sponsored Spook Alley. This is a fun thing for families to get out to. It's done in a way that, no one's going to go home traumatized or having nightmares. Well, maybe, obviously you want to make that decision, for each child is different, right? But they do this in a way that it's scary, it's creepy, but it's in good taste. It's not over-the-top gore. It's not, So it's a fun thing, and they have gotten a lot of positive attention for doing this every year, so happy to spotlight that here on the show. And one more time, that is next week, next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at the Hyde Park City offices. They're on Center Street in Hyde Park, 113 East Center Street to be exact. It's $5, and for the Little Boos, there is a Little Boo room upstairs. That's $3 a child. Adults accompanying a child get in free. And that is the Spook Alley runs 7 to 9:30 each night. The Little Boo feature runs 6 to 8 each night. And plenty of opportunities there for people to get out. I wanted to point this out, too, while we're on the topic of Halloween. I didn't mention this earlier in the week because I forgot. But at CashValleyDaily.com right now. So the folks here on our news team have been kind of tracking this and with the goal of getting photos of some of the most creative Halloween home decorations happening all throughout Cache Valley, and this goes from Paradise to Franklin County or to Franklin. It is really cool to see, but they put together a map of homes, and you can see that map in the story at CashValleyDaily.com. And some of these, one homeowner that they talked with for the story at CashValleyDaily.com talked about the 3-week process that goes into. They have a goal of having it up and running by October 1st every year, and it's a 3-week process of setting this up in their home. It blows me away. And that home is actually in Franklin, Idaho. Our own reporters here at CashValleyDaily.com say it's absolutely worth the drive. There's a dragon. They have an actual dragon in their yard. Very cool stuff. But the best decorated houses of northern Utah map is officially live at CashValleyDaily.com. And that map will actually take you to each and every house. There are about 20 of them, I believe, that made it onto the map. And they just, you can see some photos, but a lot of these you have to see in person to really appreciate. But again, those homes run from Paradise to Franklin County all throughout Cache Valley. And one of them, by the way, is actually in Hyde Park. And that is linked there. They've done some things with corn stalks that just, I don't know what it is about corn. I think it's seeing Stephen King's Children of the Corn at too young of an age, but there's something about corn stalks and corn mazes that just make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But and by the way, this is a competition. So at the end of October, we're giving away cash prizes. And you can, through this interactive map, actually, you can be a part of the voting on this. So check it out at CashValleyDaily.com. And first place, $500 in cash and prizes. Second place, $250 in cash and prizes. And third place, $100 in cash and prizes for the best Halloween decorations in northern Utah. It's very cool stuff. So at very least, check out the map at CashValleyDaily.com, and I've linked to this on our Facebook page as well if you'd like to find it there. So the full text of the Supreme Court's ruling, which struck Amendment D and subsequently, a couple of weeks later, Amendment A from the ballot, too late for the printing to be changed. So Amendment A, Constitutional Amendment A, and Constitutional Amendment D, as proposed by the state legislature, will still appear on your ballot. but any votes for or against will not count. And that is due to, first, a lower court and then a higher court, the state Supreme Court, actually, ruling that the legislature did two things wrong. One, they violated the Constitution, which lays out a timeline on how much time in advance you need to give voters for a constitutional amendment. And the legislature either didn't know about that or chose to ignore it. I'm guessing it's the latter because they have really well-paid attorneys, and someone surely pointed out that they were violating that, and they went ahead with it anyway. And the second one, and the one that has the most egg on their face, is the fact that the ballot language they wrote, that you'll see on your ballot, even though votes for or against won't count, the ballot language that they wrote, the courts decided was so misleading. That's an actual quote. That's not just my opinion. That is in the opinion. So misleading that voters wouldn't know what they were voting for or against. I don't need to spell out just how awful that is and how embarrassed the legislature should be as a body, as a whole. Even though the language was written by the Speaker of the House and the Senate President, Stuart Adams and Mike Schultz, respectively, the legislature as a whole should be ashamed of this entire process. And this is without even getting into the merits of Amendment D or Amendment A. That was a debate we really should probably be having, but they couldn't help themselves. The full Utah Supreme Court opinion is officially out. We'd had hints of this before, but what we know now, as this was released today, is it was a unanimous decision by the court, and the justices unanimously agreed that, quote, the language did not accurately reflect the substance of the proposed amendment. This was for Amendment D. And again, Amendment D took Amendment A down with it because a second lawsuit was filed after the first was successful against Amendment D, and the legislature basically acknowledged we aren't going to win on this one because we did the same thing with Amendment D. They kind of confessed. The Supreme Court ruling on Amendment D, though, reads, Amendment D would alter the balance and give the legislature unfettered constitutional authority to amend or repeal any citizen-driven ballot initiative, including those that reform the government. But the ballot title does not disclose that fundamental fact. In truth, this is, again, the actual Supreme Court ruling I'm reading from here. In truth, Amendment D has no effect on the voters' ability to amend laws. It speaks only to the legislature's ability to amend laws passed by the voters through the initiative process. And Amendment D does not clarify the legislature's ability to do so. The amendment changes it by removing existing constitutional restraints on legislative power. That is the Supreme Court basically saying the legislature lied. They won't use those words. They have to speak in legalese. They're Supreme Court justices. But there is no other way to read those two passages from the actual text of the Supreme Court ruling that was released today. And so again, what we learned today, this was a unanimous decision, and though we had a sentence or two from the Chief Justice letting us know how they'd ruled from a couple of weeks ago, the actual language is even more harsh towards the legislature. Basically saying the legislature lied. The language said that it would protect and strengthen the citizen-driven ballot initiative process. The court said, no, it won't. And why would you say that? It does the opposite. We all knew that. They knew that. But the court had to weigh in. Finally, from the actual Supreme Court ruling, last little bit I'll read here says, because the ballot language does not accurately reflect the substance of the amendment, let me read that again. Because the ballot language written by the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, Mike Schultz and Stuart Adams, does not accurately reflect the substance of the amendment, they fibbed, Amendment D has not been submitted to the voters in the way the Constitution of the state of Utah requires. So the final note, not only did they lie, not only did they try to pull a fast one, basically on us, not only is their ballot language that they wanted printed on the ballot to get you to vote for the amendment not accurately reflect, exact quote, it does not accurately reflect the substance of the amendment, but in addition to that, the Supreme Court says they violated the state constitution. And I'm adding, they likely knew this. Listen, I love our legislative process. I've had an opportunity over the years to get to know so many great lawmakers, not only from here in Cache Valley, but from all around the state. And I'll be the first one to tell you that despite a couple of bad apples who self-select to be the face of the worst parts of the legislature, by far the majority, definitely from our lawmakers here in Cache Valley, but I would say 99% of the rest of them are there to do good and mean well and are sincerely curious about learning new things and being educated on issues they aren't already expert on. And that's been my experience. This is a good group of people. So how you get to a point where acting as a body and under the rule of the two leaders they've selected to represent them as a legislative body, Stuart Adams and Mike Schultz, the House Speaker and Senate President, respectively, how you get to a point where you have the state Supreme Court saying, look, you tried to lie to voters in your ballot language. It doesn't accurately reflect the substance of the actual constitutional amendment you're proposing. And on top of that, you ignored the state constitution on how all of this is done. So, a collection of good people, in my experience. Other than, again, there have been a few bad apples along the way. There's one now, I think, that is going to be trouble in the next couple of years. That is likely going to be reelected in a couple of weeks anyway. But other than that, this is a body full of well-meaning, very sincere people. I've never interviewed a state lawmaker from anywhere in the state and thought, whoa, that person shouldn't be in power. Never. But collectively, as a legislative body, they have messed up big time with this one. And my concern is that, one, well, we have to talk about it. You can't hide something like this. You shouldn't hide something like this. When an elected body does something like this, it should be what everyone's talking and thinking about. But the problem is it can also just reinforce this idea that politicians are corrupt and not listening to the people, which the Utah Foundation surveying has showed the legislature already has a problem with this. That should have been on the mind of the House Speaker and Senate President. Not how do we word this in such a deceptive way that will trick voters into voting for something we really want, which is the power to completely ignore citizen-driven ballot initiatives. I mean, you don't have to be a political scientist to connect all these dots. But at no point did the Senate President, Stuart Adams, or the Speaker of the House, Mike Schultz, say to themselves, you know what? We shouldn't disrespect our own body this way. We shouldn't make a mockery out of the legislative process that we represent as Senate President and Speaker of the House, and we should write some honest ballot language instead. No one thought that or said that to themselves. I think we have a leadership vacuum. We've got great people in the legislature. So how did this happen? We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Whew. I got a little worked up before the break there. Had to take a sip of water and some deep breaths. I am angry about this. I'm a huge fan of the legislative process, and I'm so angry that the Speaker of the House, Mike Schultz, and Stuart Adams, Senate President, themselves have cheapened it with their antics lately. It burns me. We have a good legislative process in Utah. It's slow. It's clunky. It takes like 4 years to get big things done. I think that's great. I think that's the way. We badmouth bureaucracy. Sometimes bureaucracy is good because it makes things move slow. We don't always want things to move slow, but it's nice sometimes when things move slow because it's harder to make big changes. And I love that about our legislative process. But again, they've just made a mockery of it with their behavior lately, and I'm struggling to figure out what this is all about or what can be done about it. Anyway, I'll move on. This story, I'm bringing this up because it's funny, but it's also kind of sad as we watch the elections wrap up here, presidential election, our county elections, and more. All will be said and done in a couple of weeks here, and most of us will be glad about that. But this story made me laugh first, and then I thought, wait, that's sad. This town in Saskatchewan, Canada, is facing a huge major hurdle in the run-up to its November municipal election. No one is running for mayor. Officials in the town of Kyle said Mayor George Williams, who was elected in November 2021, is retiring, and no one has filed to run for office. An open spot on the town council also has no candidates. People are concerned. City Administrative Officer Amber Dashney said, everyone's very concerned about this. I'm confident someone will finally step up. But it's surprising in a town of several thousand people that no one is taking an interest. And there's not anything current elected leaders can really do about that. I worry that the current state of our politics, from the circus that is the presidential race to everything I just talked about our legislature and their what apparently is an ego problem there, making a mockery of their own processes and body, to the just in general ridiculous amount of money being spent on all of this that's just annoying us all, really, especially in the presidential race. I worry that everyone's just kind of checking out. I hope that's not the case, but we'll see. I promise we'll have a happier show tomorrow. For the People movie show tomorrow afternoon. Dave Ram